Welcome to the Blox Podcast, episode 23. In today's show, we've got a special guest, Stuart from Loud Grafix. He's a graphic designer that works with small businesses on their branding and graphics needs. Welcome along, Stuart.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Good to have you. So we've been working with Stuart with some redesigning that we've been doing. I think you just need to explain to everyone as to what it is you do to start with and how it's different, how you work different to other people.
Yeah, sure. All right, so I suppose kick it off from the start. I'm Stuart Kitchen. I'm a self-proclaimed caffeine addict and creative designer. Now in Melbourne, but I work with companies around the world. I sort of focus on branding and design. So I suppose the difference between that I find that I like to focus on with brands is working from ground up, and instead of just I suppose jumping on Fiverr and getting a $20 logo done, I like to actually talk with brands and sit down and see what they actually need, see why they're undergoing a branding project. So that can be from a rebrand, which you guys are talking about. It can be just a business getting started, and it can be for, a couple different things, but it's really what you're trying to sit down, analyze why you're doing this process, what you need. Is it just the logo? Do we need to go through the whole thing? Do we need to change the voice? Where we're trying to target the market, and really try and work with each brand to go into depth about their voice and to try and give them the best solution and get them targeted in their respective markets to help position them the best for their future and help growth.
How does that, so if people do put the time in and they don't go down the path of all right, just send it out, get one done quickly, what's the difference in the result? How much better is it at the end? Can you use the design different? Do people interpret it differently?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the way I like to look at it is there's you can go down the route, you can get a really basic logo done. We have all these great sites that are out there, and they're really good for getting what you think you need done straight away, no questions asked. So you can go onto Fiverr or there's a couple of other things out there and get something done that is sort of automatically generated. Everyone else has done 1,000 times. The difference that I look at as if Apple went to someone and got their logo done, it's just a bite taken out of a logo, or about take it out of an apple. That's cool, they've got their logo, but now how do they market that? You don't know that. You don't know how you actually take that voice and expand it to the market unless you sort of go and sit down and why are we doing this? What are we doing this for? And that's where I like to talk with my clients really early on. Where do you want to get to? What is going to be the best outcome for you? Not just let's do something without even asking this backstory.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I felt was that I didn't really understand is that the way that a logo gets interpreted by people, there's a lot more to the actual process of getting it designed for a specific person. So, with the Fiverr, we probably would have had the logo by now, but we've had to go right back and have discussions about the way that we do business and the way that we're going to market what we're going to do with the new portion of the business. And it all seems to stem from the design of the logo, which was sort of a bit of shock to me. And you take concepts from that and you roll it through everything that you do. So
yeah,
it's a big difference. Do you find that it's mainly bigger companies going into this sort of area, or do you think that smaller companies are stepping into this area? And should smaller ones really put time into it?
Well, okay, so I think there's a couple different things. There's big businesses and small businesses both do it. I think obviously money is a big thing for people, and not a lot of people actually value or really, as you said, understand what branding can do and how that can benefit them later down the track.
Yeah.
Those that do definitely go about it, and that can be at a younger point where you don't have to rebrand, you don't have to reposition yourself in the market. A lot of the bigger companies are most likely getting into that to reposition themselves in the market because they've found an area, an area of opportunity that they want to address, a new area, or they've found that their clientele could be different to where they wanted to go. Their trajectory has changed, so they want to roll it back and change. So yeah, I think it's both small and large. Everyone can benefit from it. The biggest thing is that you have a clear, concise, succinct voice from that start point to allow you, to talk all throughout your branding, your logo design, your corporate stationery, whatever that might end up being, your digital assets, and even to your voice. But projects can. Sorry, go ahead.
So when you've worked with bigger brands in the past and they've gone on a redirection, do they actually see the results? So if they designed it for a specific market, do they actually see the results, and sort of what's the time lapse between them actually moving in that direction? Does it have a big shift? Is probably a question.
Yeah, I suppose the biggest one that I can talk to is a company I did work for in Melbourne. They had a product launched in the market. It was all set up and going. They had an application platform, employees, everything was going. It was running for, I think at that point, it was 1.5 years, 2 years. They sort of really tried to dial into their customers that they had, and they also were still reaching out for more funding at that stage because it was a startup. So they were, investing in time in all this research into both their customers and their possible sectors that they wanted to go into. And they sort of noticed that their brand didn't have a voice that put them in line with that. Yep. So yeah, they took it back. We redesigned everything, came up with a different voice, different look, style. And it was sort of hard to quantify the results because we completely went through angel investing stages and everything. But from that, we found that it was a lot stronger board to sort of, springboard, because they were with the previous branding scheme. They weren't able to have those conversations with investors as easily as they were in the next stage after the rebrand.
Yeah.
I suppose we changed the voice and also the look and feel, and they would, it was easier to get meetings. It was easy to have that conversation because they sort of, you could see the depth or the growth in their business.
So it did have an effect on so they focused in on a market, and it actually did get cut through in that market.
Yeah, definitely. So that was massive growth we sort of saw right after that. We went from an office, they were working out of a co-working space of, I think it was 4 people, to, like I said, they were talking to investors and everything at the same time. So it was sort of coincided with an upgrade from 3 people in a co-working space to, at that stage, it went to 20 in a single office, and then grew to 50, and then overseas as well.
Yeah. Okay. So how does your process work? How do you go from start to sort of to finish?
Yeah. So it all comes back to going back down to the boiling point, getting behind what the businesses really need. That's a conversation with the client. Yourself, Chris and I were having that talk really early on about what what area that you wanted to target, what business you wanted to become. And then it's really dialing back and having that conversation really early on, and trying to then go into research. So that's, research on the market, and different areas as well that we can sort of explore. Then that's all done before you even get to sketch one.
Okay, so you need people to bring that to the table, basically. They've got to understand what they do and who they're targeting before they sort of get into this. Otherwise, it extends the amount of work that needs to be done by you guys.
Yeah, so it's more they have to be open to. The more open you are to the whole process, the easier it goes, the better the result, and the more succinct the conversation between designer and client. Or I suppose, look, you can get a logo or a brand done from anywhere from $450 right up to $14,000. It depends how much you want to bring to the table initially and how in depth you really want to go. If you didn't understand your target, you didn't understand where your business wanted to go to, then that's where we have to double down in that earlier side of things to make sure that we have strong foundations that will then, answer those questions leading into where we're going.
Okay. So once you get past that sort of initial introductions and discussions, then where does it go?
Straight to the sketchbook for me.
Can't afford a computer?
No, definitely not. No, I love my sketchbook, but I find that that brings out all the creative juices. So, rounds of drafts. So we start primarily with the logo, and then sort of it evolves to the voice behind the logo. You can roll that through into style guides, which collate all, your colors, your styles, the communication that you have, the imagery that you'd use, whether it be mascots or icons, that whole brand voice. And then that at the end of that, you spit it out into what it looks like on, whether it be stationery, whether it be business cards, whether it be T-shirts, whether it be websites. That's how that whole sort of thing flows on.
Well, one thing that I noticed is different is that you developed more than one logo, so it's to be used different around different scenarios. So it's the same sort of concept, but sort of interchangeable in the pieces in it, which I think is that a newer way, or is that just?
I think the traditional way is that you've got to always have a logo that can react to, or, be able to hold its space. And then you have the digital thinking that your logo has to be responsive, that it has to be able to view at a tiny piece or a massive on the side of a billboard.
Yeah.
I think I like the semblance like in between that, whereas it has to be responsive in today's age. You've got to be able to view it no matter where you are. We've got, digital assets that, I've got an iPhone here. I've got my computer. Everyone's got tablets. Your phones are getting bigger than smaller. So it's got to be able to be viewed on all these different programs and platforms. Yeah. So I think that's what I try and focus on, is being able to be viewed, whether it be, that vertical format that we'll have on a phone, or the horizontal format that you'll have on a web page, or might want to put on stationery. It's just ensuring that no matter what the outcome is, that it's viewable in all formats or all outcomes.
Okay. So what else do you do as a graphic designer? I mean, so the logos would be the bread and butter, but,
I draw pictures, yeah.
Yeah. Where else people integrated into their businesses? Because we were talking, about the way the website gets put up and design around that, and sort of, once you start to see all the areas, there's a lot of design. But where would you say the main areas are?
The main areas for myself, or the main areas that people should invest time in?
Both.
Both. Okay. Well, I think the idea is that everyone should invest time in their brand voice.
Yep.
Now, that might be a different monetary scale for people, not smaller businesses, maybe not having that to dive into. But no matter what that is, no matter how much cost or money you want to throw at it, you should always invest as much time as you can to create a succinct and repeatable voice for your company. Now that, as a designer, we'll be doing websites, I've done apps, then, physical products as well, whether that be t-shirts, caps, we've got everything. Designers are very versatile. So yes, you can use them to do it all. And like I said, I love doing a lot of different things, but it's as long as that brand voice is concise throughout everything. So I reckon spending the money earlier on in the picture is one of the best assets that you can have.
Yeah.
That will then, translate it throughout all your collateral and have that one true voice.
What about adding? So I know that we've discussed things in the past. How much value do you think you could add to a website that someone was just, put up, made it themselves? Do you see the differences? Do you see the problems? And, so how can you sort of help there?
Yeah, I mean, look, I can always look at a website and see whether it's got a graphic designer doing it, whether it's had someone, a platform that's had a UI or UXer go through it, which is, trying to come up with an interface that works for the user, whether it is user-centered design, and then whether it's had that brand designer go through it and actually have that voice that goes from the start out.
How important is that?
Well, I mean, like the voice of the company, it is the company for some people. We're all online nowadays. Everyone's got to be able to see you. You've got to be able to have that digital business card, right? I think it's of different importance to different organizations, but there's always got to be that one easy, simple structure that everyone can go to. Everyone wants to see some result and put if not a name, at least a space to a name, or if not a face, a space to it.
Because I know with what we're looking to do, we're going for a heavy sort of brand focus. So it's just sort of interesting that the amount of time that needs to be put into that. Would you suggest that's a better way, or is that just another way? Or would you think go with, okay, you've done your logo, then you focus on the content? Or so with what we're doing a logo, character, and heavy brand. Is that good or bad?
Yeah. Well, I think every situation, every business is different, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that I believe that if you've invested true time into your branding, then it gets easier as it goes along anyway. So that the website, the content is easier because of it. Yeah, so if you try and attack these things later, it's harder because you might have it separated a bit more. Therefore, you're going to spend more money down the track on other things. So I don't necessarily find it whether you spend more money or less. I think it's more where you allocate that to. If you allocate that to just content creation, then you've got that whole chunk in content creation, and that might be easier, but your brand might be slightly skewed, and it might be harder to tie that that communication to other parts of your brand.
But how important is that? Does that have a huge effect on the way businesses work?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say what's Apple, what
good point. Yeah.
What's Nike? These are, if you say you look at Nike, it's just a tick, but then do you just do it? It's less about the actual thing, and it's more about the whole conversation that you have behind it. It's about that culture, that everything backing it than just that skin. So it's not just one side of things. I find it definitely massively important to have this full conversation.
Okay. All right. Here you go.
So if we bring it more back to small business, a couple of things. So you're talking that small business owners maybe not see the value initially, and the upfront cost may be a problem. Do you think that's because they don't have any directions, and those questions you're asking are genuinely hard, what is your audience, what is the why of your business, is it then thrown into the too hard basket and price is as blamed as the reason?
I think it's even sometimes before that people dismiss it because they don't see the direct correlation, or they don't see the direct response of I spend X and I get Y.
Yeah.
It's something very hard to sort of see, because if you take one small segment of it, it's out of context. But when you actually see everything together, it starts making a lot more sense. And it's probably because of the lack of understanding on the topic than it is on the specifically too hard basket. But yeah, definitely as soon as you start, if you've made the decision, we want to invest in branding, then you want to start having that conversation. It is hard. It definitely is. It does intimidate some people, but I think the harder that you work at it, the better the result is. So I see less friction on that front as to before you even get started.
Would you just say take time on it and just roll? Because I know we keep coming back to issues we try and fix. So as non-creatives who don't own pen and paper, we don't have that side to sort of create, and it becomes very difficult to us. So I think we just bash it on the head into submission and then sort of talk to you to try and help.
Yeah, so I think that it's always going to help if you've got a good knowledge base. So if you don't understand something, what do? You talk to someone. If I don't know how to do my tax, you guys help me. If I don't know how to do any extra bookkeeping, I get an expert to do it. That, in this case, that would be you. You have to be able to understand the most that you can about your business before you go and ask for someone else's help. But that's what I'm there for, to actually, if I can't answer the questions for you because it's about your business, it's asking the right questions. So once you can ask yourselves the right questions, that's how you start getting traction. And then you can. It's a lot easier to beat it into the submission once you have the right questions.
Slightly, yeah.
And as we're all external professionals, I think the number one challenge is explaining to customers the value of whatever service you're providing. I think accountants have it a little bit differently, as we can normally quantify a lot of things. We can say, okay, we'll do this job, it'll give you X result, X dollars in savings or X increase in sales. So what do you sort of say to customers that the value is going to be in the end result? Do you say that there's going to be more customers out of this? Is it going to be easier to market? What type of things do you tend to say to explain the value of the brand?
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's more based around the conversation that you have after it's done. So really going into being able to talk that it's going to be harder now, but if you put the time and effort in now, then you're going to be able to see those results a lot further down the track. By having a stronger brand, it's going to be easier to communicate through all your channels, all your social medias. And it's going to save you a lot of hassles down the track, because if you look at, fixing something, it's going to be a lot harder if it's set up wrong.
Is this,
and that's how I sort of try and talk.
Is it similar to building a house without an architect laying down the foundation, like giving you the plan? If you
don't lay down the correct foundations,
you're trying to tell all these contractors to knock up a house, but they're all working off their own plans, and there's no one single blueprint that you can fall back on, that everything needs to relate to this. Yeah,
exactly. So, if you don't have the right foundations, you can't build a house.
Yeah, I think that the hard part and the hard thing in the past is you just you'll never see the result, and I don't think you'll see the result for a long time. But I do see where we're going to see it at the end. I mean, even with the redesign of what we're doing now, we've been working on that for nearly 2 years. It's like it's a process that keeps getting chipped away at, keeps getting changed. But I do see how it is going to benefit down the track. But it is hard to quantify in the beginning anyway.
Yeah, definitely with I suppose the age old fable about art being subjective. I can like it and the next guy hate it. This is design where it's less based about what you like and more about whether it works, how well it does its job. And because there's no specific number that you can always put against it, you can't say 1 + 1 = 2 in this case. But what you can say is that it is a journey, and at the end of the journey, it will be a lot easier to talk about everything for your brand. And it's fun while you do it as well.
Okay. And last question I got, I was on your website, and you've got Marvel Stadium as one of your jobs. Did you build Marvel Stadium, or what was that?
Did not do the foundations for Marvel Stadium. I helped out just with some signage and badging and that.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. Around the stadium.
It wasn't as fun as doing all the foundations or everything, but I did get to do the name badges.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Stuart, where can we find you? Where's Loud Grafix? Where's the best space to follow you?
Yeah, like everyone in the digital sphere. So I have my website, Loud Grafix, LOUDGRAFIX, just to be different.com.au. And also Instagram, just at Loud Grafix. I do everything. I work with small and large businesses. Currently working for NFPs, a couple around the world, Melbourne, New South Wales, around Australia, around US, South Africa, you name it. We're all a digital world now, guys. Jump on board.
We're doing it right now.
Exactly.
Well, we survived our first interview, though. We didn't jump over each other too much. We can build on that.
It didn't storm out either.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't. The door's right here as well. I think it worked all right.
I should have pressed a bit harder.
Well, it's great to speak to you, Stuart.
Thanks, Stuart.
We'll have you again soon. See you later.
I'll see you then. Take care.
See you, Chris.